Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Peter. It's been, I'll reflect on this for a moment because it's been a pretty exciting journey for me because I understand it comes down to how well some of these tools you understand, how well you can use them, and if you can find the right tools for different things and put them all together, then you have that winning formula. Um, so as you all know, I've been toying around with the site, trying to do something for realtors and for clients and for regular buyers and sellers. And and I've gone through a number of different apps, but I've been blown away with Lovable. I just think it's such an incredible and powerful tool, and I've played with it. I was away for most of this week, but I had enough time to do several iterations of the site. And the gist of what I'm going to share my screen with you. The gist of what I'm trying to do. Let's see if I can share that right now. Share. Okay. It's a is a simple tool that every person would want to use, whether they want to, because I don't know if any of you have used something like BC assessment site that kind of goes into um, your specific address and checks out, okay, well, what does government of British Columbia, based on the location, what does it think its value of the property is? And so the idea was to come up with the tool, and it's still work in progress because I'd like to add different modules to it. Right now, I've got a couple of modules in this tool, and the idea is for people to just do simple research, or actually use the research that AI does for you based on the uploaded data. And there's I've shared some of the screens with you of the stuff that's been uploaded, and there's a ton of it, a lot of information, and every month there's new information. I've gone through uh, different templates and for Vibe and for Lovable, but the outcome was this. We've got a couple of Here's a simple smart value score calculator. It gives you some information, but the bottom line is you live in some neighborhood and you get to plug in Yaletown, and you've got a condo, and then it calculates its value, and there's specific formulas that it uses. It's a little bit above my understanding of it, but I've tried to input information through ChatGPT, through Grok, to come up with the best formulas of how to come up with values of these properties. And it's basing its values on all of the uploaded files. It also gives you market insight for that specific location. That's one of the tools that I have working. And then the second tool that I've got working, so it actually gives you explanation of the market. I've selected 6 different locations, but the second tool that I wanted to touch on is the climate. And this is a tool that allows you to pick a city, and then you get all of these predetermined calculations, and it says, hey, it's price pressure minus 4.5, where the market's moving, the inventory, and it's kind of giving you an idea of is this a good time to maybe invest in Maple Ridge or another location. The next steps that I'm exploring now with API keys, it's a little bit, I probably gonna need some professional help with something like this, but my understanding is that BC Assessment does not provide API keys, or maybe there are certain type of subscriptions for it. Um, but I I am waiting to get API keys to every listing that becomes available, and I would like to import that data so that you can actually see climate market of the today's market climate for not just the city but specific neighborhoods based on very specific data from active listings, sold listings, and the ones that have sold or pending, because that's a huge tell. Right now, I'm working with clients where we're trying to figure out, well, what is the value of your property? Let's take a look. There's 45 similar units on the market, and there's only one sale in the last 6 months. And you kind of go, okay, well, now you're looking at competing against 45 other properties. And this helps you determine value better. And it helps you understand the reality because in some cases, people are desperate to sell and they will end up putting realistic value on the property. And in some cases, they will say, you know what? I don't want to sell for this cheap because I'd much rather wait for the next 2, 5, 10 years because I have that time. It's not a necessity. This is where I want to be able to take that next step and figure out how to do maybe 3, 4 different elements within this program that doesn't just give you, the market, the climate for Maple Ridge, or doesn't just give you a specific scoring, but gives you information based on additional API keys. And that's my next step, figuring that part out and make it part of this app. But Lovable was absolutely incredible. I've signed up for it. Um, and I've used Notebook LM and other packages to see if I can improve on this. And so far, creating a site for somebody who has never in his
Mhm.
life done a website, and it's mind-boggling to me. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful for this course. I'm grateful for the things that I've learned, and it looks like I'm going to have to continue learning a lot of things, but in a very limited amount of time to be able to do something like this to me, it's incredible, and I'm blown away with
Yeah.
capabilities we'll have access to and tools that are, in my opinion, fairly inexpensive for the things that they do. And I'm
Good
open
job.
to any questions you may have.
Dimitri, do you see your customers using this or do you see yourself using this?
I think just like um, anybody who wants to figure out what does government think about the value of my property,
Hmm.
I think a buyer, a potential buyer or potential seller, in this case, it would be a seller, I think would find very useful information within this tool. Because
Yep.
unfortunately, when and I've looked at this data because I think that's going to be a whole separate element within this tool is to see how maybe realistic this BC assessment data is. Because often, I get an occasional email saying, "Hey, look at how horrible the market is. This property had sold for 150,000 below assessment value."
Hmm.
And to me, that email, to me, I look at that email, and to me, that's a fake statement because you can
Right. You can't draw that conclusion from that data.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. You need to consider a whole bunch of elements, how the properties nearby are being sold for, and how quickly they're selling. Because if I were to take $1 million property, put it on the market for 1.5, I get an offer of 1 million. We sell it for 1 million. Now, then I go around saying, "Hey, it was purchased for $500,000 below assessment value." So
Right.
a lot of it is fake data, and it's difficult to parse it. I know a lot of it is used for marketing, but I
Hmm.
want a simple tool that's going to be very easy. Put the address in, get some information that's going to be much more beneficial to you than a simple BC assessment tool, but also get information about the neighborhood that may be useful to you as well.
Yeah. On the seller side, I could see you putting it behind a paywall, not a paywall, but like a lead magnet wall, just where people give you their email address to be able to use this tool. Because then what you end up with is a highly qualified list of potential sellers that you can market to or whatever. On the buyer side, I want you to put it on a map. So I want to see the lower mainland on a map with like heaty type scores so I can evaluate where's picking up hotter and cooler or whatever. So I can kind of make sense of a large regional group of data in a glance or whatever. So like sellers, like I really only care about my area. Maybe I'll compare against my friends to see if they made a better decision than me or something like that. But on the buyer side, you're like, yo, where's cooling? Where because when you're on the buyer side, you don't always have the same time. It's not like, oh, I can just wait 10 years to buy. For some reason, you need to buy right then. And so trying to figure out where it's cooling or heating specifically could be quite insightful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm selling my house right now. And so this what's interesting is that like I would be curious if like other realtors would be your audience for this in some regard because like I'm not actually looking at this kind of data. I'm kind of relying on my realtor to be sharing it with me. I'm not like, I think a lot of buyers just aren't in the place where they're like going to do their own research. Like that's why we get realtors. So I'm curious if that's like, but if my realtor had this to send to me as one of her tools, I can see that being like a real
Yes.
benefit. I
Yeah.
don't know that
Benefit
I would
to
have sought this out on
I'm
my
going to plus one that and say, Dimitri, for like a year, I've been trying to push you up the food chain, and you've been reluctant to share your AI secrets with the world. You're like, yo, why would I share this with other AI realtors or whatever, right? But I'm like, because you can be king of the hill. And at the king of the hill, you can sell products to all the other realtors, like this insight tool or whatever. You could use a presentation around this to book yourself keynotes at all the real estate conventions around, talking about real estate and AI, and essentially become the thought leader and have the realtors. You can still sell houses, but they're probably gonna be higher end houses, and you're also gonna be selling a bunch of products to realtors as well, I think. So anyway, let me just keep nudging you in that
Brilliant.
direction.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I would want to report from my realtor from this site, not I wouldn't go here directly.
Hmm.
Why not? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, it's just capacity. Like this is not my area of expertise. How would I even know that this exists? I'm relying on a realtor to give me that knowledge. I don't want to do that work myself. I'm paying them.
Yeah.
Just playing devil's advocate. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. Fantastic work on this, Dimitri. Yeah, really curious. Yeah, I think that the data underlying all of this is really important, how you're porting that in. I shared some Zillow stuff. I know, that's not the same database that you were showing me, which is basically a government assessed sort of public history. Remind me the name of that website that you're
EC
trying to,
assessment.
okay, BC assessment. Yeah,
Assessment.ca.
right.
Has to do
So
with
they
property taxes and stuff up here.
Right, right. So that seems like a really important proprietary database that's publicly available to begin with, huh? But
It
just not
is.
API based. Is that right?
Yeah, but Peter, augmenting it with Zillow data and other API data would be something no one's ever seen before and would make his
Yeah,
product pretty freaking cool.
exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say like if you can figure out a way to hack it together, it might be. I'm not exactly sure about this, but I bet there's a way agentically to log in. And I'm not going to encourage you to break the terms of service of using this, but there might be a way to be able to port some of that data out without an API in a way that could build a database. I'm just thinking of like what Carlos did with building a database using Perplexity, even right with the right prompt. But imagine if you were logged in at an agent that could help you extract a lot of data from there. And yeah, layer onto it other things here. Anyway, I love this project. I would love to have another call with every single person on here, over break or early in February, whatever it is, to follow up. But I'm so impressed by not just what you built, Dimitri, but what all of you guys have been able to accomplish in the last 6 weeks. And amazing to see the progress here. I see Mo has a hand up.
Yeah, for updating the data for this kind of website, can we use scraping the government data? Is it possible?
I think that's kind of what Peter was referring to.
Yeah,
Ah,
that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, right? And there's probably some ways to, yeah, navigate that process in a way that is ethical and legal. I think it's probably possible, and I would encourage you to also think about, yeah, what the other ways of, yeah, triangulating it with others type of. I love the geospatial angle, KK. I think that's brilliant. I think that would be amazing. What if you got a map as well of like, hey, here's the rough neighborhood, or maybe it's a specific page that, yeah, you could log into, or maybe you're just sent a lovable style URL that's like, hey, here's your neighborhood and here's the last 20 sales on your street or whatever, right? Like boom.
Oh, also, Dimitri, I want to see more of your face on everything.
What do you mean
Build
by
your
that?
brand.
Literally what I just said. I want to see more of your face on everything. Think about realtors. They're putting their faces on buses. I know like 5 realtors' names in Vancouver just from living here and seeing their faces on buses and billboards and stuff like that.
Trash cans, I mean,
Just
if
trying to
yeah.
associate your brand with this stuff that's happening here, I think is a good idea. So I'd like to see your face on all of these things. It's really just an on ramp into Dimitri's world, is what this is. So
Yeah, I think a good next step too would be like testing it out, right? Just getting it in front of people and doing some validation of like what are the pieces of value that people are seeing, and not and then like because then you're refining based on actual feedback and customer needs. So this is really cool.
One last thing, Dimitri, that big blue button in the upper right, that publish button, that's what I was talking about on the group chat where I'm like, publish it first and send that link to people unless you want people to be able to edit it or whatever. The right way to do it is to click that blue button, and then they will give you a different short link without all those alphanumeric characters, and it'll be like marketvibes.lovable.dev or something like that.
Question about that. If I were to publish it and if I wanted to make modification to it, would I have to republish it every time, or how does that work?
Yep, you can publish it, develop it for another month. When you're happy again, publish it again. And I would also say, since we're talking a little inside baseball here, you should go on the hackathon channel that we run and you should be like, hey guys, I just completed my first lovable vibe coded site and I'm publishing it. But I also see a GitHub icon here. Would someone give me a GitHub 101